Hi, I heard about a library called HTMX from one of the senior developers on my team. And I was curious, could I learn how to use HTMX without a lot of JavaScript experience? In this AppyCast, I walked through how I created this product listing website using just ChatGPT to learn how to use HTMX. G'day, I'm AppyDave, and in this AppyCast we're going to look behind the scenes at this software called HTMX. Now, I believe it's a JavaScript library that allows you to use a native HTML sort of setup, and the attributes will allow you to do some sort of JavaScript. I haven't used it, I've just been told about it. So we'll go into Google search, and we've got HTMX Google search and high-powered tools for HTML, and we have this landing page. Now, what I'm going to do is just copy this basic information here. Don't need the sponsors, I don't think. So we'll go into ChatGPT, do that, and let's go with ChatGPT 4 and say, you are an expert in writing HTML, JavaScript and CSS, but you have come across a library called HTMX, and what this library is designed to do is allow you to do JavaScript style of events using pure HTML. Here is a little bit of information about this software, can you tell me in 20 words what this software or library will do? So we have HTMX is a small library for Ajax, CSS, WebSockets, server-side events. Uses simple HTML attributes. Okay, that sounds interesting. Now we're here, looks like we've got docs, so let's click on there. And we have, looks like everything here is just a hash anchor. I think all the information is there. Let's just check. It's all there. So that makes our lives a bit easier. Let's just go into Postlight Reader, where all the information is now in one simple document. I'm going to copy it, and I've set up a little folder to get started, and we'll put the documentation in there. Now I'll just get rid of anything that says Postlight, so that won't make any sense to ChatGPT. Looks like we've got the information we need. Now there's 900 odd lines of information, and I'm assuming some of these lines are pretty long, so this information is way too big for ChatGPT. What would happen if I paste it in is it would just say this is too big. So what we will do is go back up to the top, select it all and delete it, and I think we're in Java. We're in an environment where we can do some JavaScript. So let's create a file called split to files.txt, and we'll hit save on our documentation. And what we want to do is take a file called documentation.md as an input, and a size in characters as a second parameter, and then split the documentation.md file into n number of files. Let's make this a comment. Each size characters long, and write to files called doc 01.md, doc 02.md, etc. And we'll just copy that comment and let's see what ChatGPT can do with that. And we'll say in JavaScript. Okay, it looks okay. We'll see whether it is. Hit save. We'll open up a terminal just at this location. I think 1000's a bit small. I think we could go for about 8000. And LSA, we got documentation MD. We'll just type node, and we have a bunch of files here. So HTMX finishes at LO, starts at load polling. Okay, so I think we got our documentation that we just got from the HTMX website split into 7 files. So that should be good enough to get started.
Yeah.
Let's take this first one and throw it in and say, now one of the things that probably didn't really need to do was have this script in the same robot or the same bot that we were starting with. Usually I would set up a new chat window for that, but because it's the only bit of information in here, we can just go and edit this and the bot will kind of forget that this information existed unless we change back to it. So what I'm going to do is say, can you read this information and tell me 5 interesting things about it? And we just paste that in. We'll press save and submit, and it will overwrite the split text code that we had. The split text code is still there because you can go back through these like this, and you can see it here if you needed it. But I believe that because we're now on path number 3 here, the bot as it moves forward won't have any knowledge about the split text, which is great because we're not actually interested in that concept for testing out this library. Okay, HTMX extends HTML capabilities, so allows us to do HTTP requests. I think, can you give me basic installation instructions, comma, and a hello world HTML file to get started? So hello world is the default thing that you do whenever you're starting a new programming language or library. Obviously we want it to do something that uses the library, so it might not quite be what we need, but let's go with that. So it says we can set up our HTML with this. Let's copy that. Let's create a new folder here. We'll call it documentation. And we'll move all of this up here. Now we'll go for a new file and we'll call it .html. And if we click on this, this will take us over to the library, which is great. If you prefer, you can download the file. We don't need to do that, and since it is a hello world sort of thing, let's see what this does. So I'm just going to copy that and replace the other one. Now we got a div ID of message, so I guess this is a GET request to an endpoint called hello. We're triggered on the click event. Target message, so whatever comes back I'm assuming is going to go into here somehow. swap the outer HTML. Click me to say hello. So I do not believe we have enough information to get started, but let's run this. Open in a live server. Click me to say hello. Okay. Nothing happened there. Once you have a server that responds, okay. How would you suggest I set up a server to respond to /hello? Okay, let's just run with that. So make server, cd server. I don't know that we need the oh yeah, no, we need an npm init. Let's go to here, run that.
You can't run that in live server in VS?
The HTML we can. But live server is for taking static sort of HTML, loading them up. It's not for actually having a back-end server. So we need to create a back-end server. We've called it my server. I would have called it just server, but this is what it said. We'll npm install express, and wants us to have a server.js. So let's create that file. We'll call it, paste it in, and there's an endpoint that returns hello world. We run it. What we might do here, server.js. Is that right?
Yep.
Looks like it is. Localhost. Let's open that up and let's just hit that hello endpoint. Okay, so that's working. And maybe. Okay, so the first thing to notice is that I ran the HTML in live server, which means any GET requests coming back from the library coming back to this same location, which is not the same as our server. So I think what we'll do is, rather than using live server to host this page, let's let our own server do that. So we'll just come back into here. We've got our server created. Let's just ask the question, can you set up an endpoint called test1 that will return the file test01.html? Do this within the Express.js server code that we wrote earlier. Okay, so let's just follow that path.
That looks good.
Looks like public. Create a folder called public. Put it into my server. Take our file, put it into public. It's there. Go back. I'm just going to copy everything. No, I'm not going to copy everything because we've lost the hello world thing, but let's copy it anyway. Go to our server, paste it all in. Same. We got a path thing.
Yeah, that's right.
We got a join, and we still want that, don't we? So let's rerun this. Hello world is still working, and now hello world, well, test1 is also working, and that says hello world. So we've got the first bit of code working. We've used ChatGPT to do it all. We haven't read the manual, which is interesting. What we can now do is take this a little bit further. We'll tell it first, for each example that I want you to create, could you make both the HTML page and the Express.js route to serve it from now on? It's doing stuff, so that's great. So we got a greet one in this case. Didn't quite get it the way I wanted. And the Express.js route to serve the HTML page from, yeah, that looks right. Second page would be what we're talking about. That's interesting. Don't even know whether this worked. This is like a HTML partial. So there's our main page. Let's take that section just here. Go into HTML1. I'm going to call this index. Is that the name they went with? It was. Go to our server code. Call that index. We'll leave this code. It should still work. And we'll paste in this additional code here. We'll just hit refresh on localhost. So now we've got click to say hello. That code should still be working. It does, which is cool. Hit refresh. Now load second page wouldn't work because we haven't got a second page, but it's suggested that we have something called second page, and we'll just copy that, pop in over here. So it's just a partial, it's not the full HTML, and this should just get replaced by it. So what is it? Welcome to the second page. And we don't need to refresh, we should just click it. There you go. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. You got the partial working straight up.
Yeah. Okay.
How many?
Okay, I think we have basic understanding of how this works. What I want to do now is really just load all the documentation into ChatGPT and just interrogate it as I do each one. So let's start off with a prompt that goes, I'm going to insert all the documentation for HTMX in, and for each piece of content, I want you to tell me 3 things that might be interesting within that content. Say yay if you understand.
You paused.
Okay, so let's go with this and say, paste that in. Thank you. Understanding HTMX. HTMX stands for HTML extension for Ajax. By extending HTML, HTMX allows any element to issue a HTTP request, any event to trigger a request, any HTTP verb to be used. Installation, it's straightforward. You can use CDN or download it. I think we use the CDN. Triggering requests and modifiers. Provides granular control over triggering Ajax requests. By default, elements like input, text area, and form are triggered on the change and submit events, while others are triggered by the click event. However, the hx-trigger attribute, so that's something I guess we can use, just there, allows you to customize which event will trigger the request. Additionally, trigger modifiers such as once, changed, delay, or throttle, and from provide additional control. Great. So we got polling capability, provides polling that can be very useful for creating dynamic and responsive applications. Using the every syntax with the hx trigger, so we got that there, you can set an element to poll a given URL at regular intervals. So we should think about that. Let's go into chat and we'll try and find some URL that we can poll and get something interesting from it on a timely basis. Ajax and special events. So HTMX core is set up with attributes to enable Ajax requests. What do we got? HX get. So get requests, post, put, patch, and delete requests allow different HTTP methods to be issued. Great. Let's move on to number 2. I just took 2 letters from the previous one and added it in. I might just say the 4 interesting things in 15 to 25 words per item, and then we'll paste it in. What I'm also going to do is take a copy of that, because we're going to use this fairly often, and we'll just put it there. It's like a prompt that we're going to use. Move on to number 3 in a moment, but let's see what it's saying. Load polling. In scenarios where a process has a definitive endpoint, such as progress bars, load polling is useful. Okay. Request indicators. Uses HTMX indicator class to provide user feedback during Ajax requests. This class manages the visibility of the indicator based on the request status. Okay, I don't think we're going to set this sort of stuff up. We could do. Target specification. HTMX allows the response to load into a different element than the request one using the HX target. This supports standard and extended CSS syntax for flexibility. So I guess something we could do here is that if we had, let's say we had a 9x9 square, let's say we were doing some sort of product listing, we might be able to go get information that updates all 9 listings at the same time, especially if it was the same value for each listing, or we could update each individual item. So I'm thinking, what could we build? I think we might look at a couple of games if possible. We'll look at Word, or maybe we'll look at Connect 4. But looking at the nature of this library, I think it might be easier to work more with a web page with dynamic content. So let's say it was like a Shopify product landing page, and maybe, so let's switch that out. So there's a product landing page with a grid and maybe even lazy load. Let's move that over there, and maybe there's a product description page. It'd be interesting if we could use this software and ChatGPT and make that sort of concept pretty easily. See whether this is at all possible. We come back and we got DOM swapping. HTMX offers diverse ways to swap HTML into the DOM. Supports traditional swapping, morphing. So it looks like it's got dynamic CSS transitions. We'll see what that means over time. Let's take number 3, paste it in, take our little prompt from earlier, we'll just paste it in there. Okay, swap and settle model. It uses a model where new content is swapped in with the old attribute values. Then the new attribute values are swapped after settle delay, allowing CSS transitions to work without additional JavaScript. Okay, out of band swaps. HTMX can directly swap content from the response into the DOM using an ID attribute with the HX swap OOB attribute. Okay, file upload. Uploads via setting the HX encoding attribute to multi-part form data, and then there's a progress event that we can hook into to see the file uploading. Okay, let's jump over here. No, let's stay here. Boosting and progressive enhancement. HTMX can boost regular HTML anchors and forms into Ajax requests with the boost attribute, supporting progressive enhancement by degrading gracefully if JavaScript is not enabled. Okay. I think what we'll just do is we'll push on with each question quickly. Do that one. We'll get another one going. Form data. And then there's a progress event that we can hook into to see the file uploading. Okay. Let's jump over here. No. Let's stay here. Boosting and progressive enhancement. HTMX can boost regular HTML anchors and forms into Ajax requests with the boost attribute, supporting progressive enhancement by degrading gracefully if JavaScript is not enabled. Okay. I think what we'll just do is we'll push on with each question quickly. Do that one. We'll get another one going. And one last one. Let's just read some of this while it's going. Okay, we've read that. HTMX promotes progressive enhancement to ensure broader user accessibility using normal HTML accessibility recommendations like semantic HTML and clear focus states. Supports declarative use of WebSockets and server-sent events, allowing real-time interaction with clients and servers. History support in HTMX enables interaction with the browser history API, so you can go back through different pages by using push URL attribute. Allows us to use a back function. HTMX operates with Ajax, and what do we got? Firing events and response or connection errors, and also supports cross-origin resource sharing. Move on down. While that's going, we'll start another one here. We have a validate, an event hook allowing developers to add custom validation logic. Check validity. We've got failed, an event is invoked when validity is false. Halted, triggered when a request isn't issued due to a validation error, and non-form elements don't validate by default before making requests. Okay, let's scroll down. The HX on allows you to respond to any event. It provides locality of behavior, enabling scripting logic to be embedded with the relevant HTML elements. Okay. HyperScript, a front-end scripting language created by the team, pairs well with HTMX. It's designed to for easy embedment in HTML, handling custom events and providing a more expressive scripting language. That's interesting. Intercooler.js and HyperScript implementations. I see remove after, so I don't know what this is, which is fine. We'll just jump in there and we'll just paste it in there as well. Intercooler is a JavaScript library that adds simple and efficient way to add Ajax functionality to a web application. Click me. Let's keep going. And we've got caching. Prevents XSS attacks. Let's look at the configuration via meta tags. Okay. What I'm going to do is build a second brain. So we have a list of features, and as a secondary item, let's convert it into a blog post. Could you write me a blog post? And there's a reason for this. I'm trying to create a brain for a different robot at the moment. Could you write me a blog post that thoroughly describes the HTMX application for someone that wanted to use this library and most of its features in about 2,000 words. Okay. And what we're going to do is we'll see what this writes. Hopefully it does a good job. But we're going to use this blog post and the feature list, the 20 feature list that we had, to drive a new bot. Okay. And so we've condensed. Okay, so what I'll do is we'll create a new document here and we'll call it condensed documentation.md, and we will take all the information that it's written in this blog post and we'll just paste it in there like that. And where it says copy code, let's just fix up a couple of things like that. We'll copy all the features here and go documentation feature list.md, paste it in there, and we'll just rename this so that they're grouped together down the bottom. And then we'll start up a new chatbot. Let me introduce you to a new JavaScript library called HTMX. And what we'll do is we'll take the condensed documentation and the feature list, paste it in and say, please read and say yay. Okay. Now, you understand the general features of this JavaScript library, comma. Can you give me a list of 5 different simple HTML applications that might be suitable for implementation with this language? So I was thinking weather forecast, image gallery, shopping cart. Okay. Sounds great. One more. Can you see this being used for a shop with a list of products and a display page for each product, comma, and some sort of filtering capability for the list of products? Great. I have set up a simple server.js using Express.js, and this is its current content. We can change this code as we see fit and add new controller actions to support the different pages or configuration. When it comes to a list of products, we will use a JSON document to store that information. So let's see what it does. Okay, we've got 2 products started. Let's just make sure we have that file. We got product 1, product, looks good to me. Copy the code, go back to our server, Okay, they're both GET requests. It's also given us the HTML. We'll dynamically load the products here, and we'll show one product here. Okay, let's just take this. I don't remember exactly how this is. Am I supposed to have an ID called outer HTML, or am I not understanding the use of this attribute correctly? And what I'll do is I'll just paste that in. A list container. Okay. Maybe I should also just be reading this a little bit. Cool. So the value of outer HTML is one option. Probably replace the whole element or replace inside the element. Okay, that looks correct. In this updated code, the hx swap inner HTML attribute is used instead of outer. This will replace the inner HTML content of the post list container. That feels better to me, at least. Let's pop in over here. We'll go to our index page. Let's just throw them both in. Copy this one. I'm just going to run it and see where we're at. Hit save. Unexpected token in the JSON. Okay, feels like we're good now. Let's test the endpoints. Build my endpoints using this domain port with there and there. Homepage worked. Product list worked. Let's change this to a 1. That one worked. And the second one worked. So our endpoints are okay. Okay, so if we know that we can get an individual product, we can get a list of products, and we have a HTML page, but we have nothing showing, then what we really need to ask it is, can you add a div using the HTMX that will list the products from the products.json, or we might say the products endpoint. Let's stop that because there's an error there. This code that you have given me does not actually work because you are not rendering any HTML for each of the products. Okay, that looks a little bit better. So that pops inside. Let's see if that works. Great. Now, so name, description, price. So we'll just ask it. Okay, we're looking at a HTML page. We've got some sort of HTML being shown, not in a loop. And if we click on it, we get data. So I think I have a misunderstanding of how this product works, but at this point in the video, I made a couple of assumptions and I went down some rabbit holes. And the assumptions was that this library was going to work similar to tools like React and Svelte and Vue, where they take data from the client, say in a JSON payload, and convert it into HTML and render it to the screen. And I was thinking that way. I'm like trying to bring back JSON, which is not the way it works, because this particular library uses a different technique called HTML over the wire. So if I type in HTML over the wire, we search for it, we have this library out there that's popular with certain type of developers, and it's called Hotwire. And what it does is, rather than going back, getting JSON, turning it into HTML in the client, it just goes and hits an endpoint and gets HTML. and whatever HTML comes back, it just puts it into an ID or whatever on the HTML DOM. So HTMX, I think, works very similar to Hotwire in that regard. And this is just something I didn't understand at the point when I was communicating with ChatGPT, rather than the JSON directly. Won't matter that it's spelt that wrong. You should understand what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So what we'll do is we got products. We'll grab that. And we've got our server.js, which has so far been returning product JSON, and we'll try that out. So we'll come back to our page here, hit refresh, and let's just click. Okay, let's just look at our products listing here. Probably need to restart the server. So let's test this endpoint. Now we've got some HTML that looks better. Let's come back to this page. We'll refresh it and we'll just click here. Great.
No. Yep.
So now we have a list of products. I think the next thing is, let's make it clickable. Can you alter the HTML a little bit so that if I click on the div surrounding the product entry, comma, it will go and get data from the products slash point and replace that into the second details div named, and let's just go find that. We had it over on the index HTML. Looks like that.
Just make sure you change endpoint to endpoint.
Point. Thank you. So we have a product list. Did we have that before? Product list? We didn't. So this looks better to me. Go H1. Silly machine. You have not followed the documentation. There is no concept of a HX-each in the documentation. You instead need to render out the server-side HTML with a clickable link to swap the detail HTML. It's a bit bogus. That's a bit bogus, but we'll see what it does. Okay, it's not going to get it right for me. I just want to take that, I believe. I also did not read this correctly because it already had a heading in here, so let's get rid of all of that. We've got our product list HTML. For now, I'm just going to wrap this around the div. So we'll refresh the page. Just click there. Okay, now we've got a hyperlink like that. It's a little bit odd, but that's okay. We'll click on it and it has returned. So whatever code it gave me was not JavaScript interpolation. Just put that in there. Hit save, refresh, and click on there. Product list, products. What we now need is to have a look at our products ID code, which is still returning JSON, and we need to alter that. So we'll come in here and say, can you alter the individual product endpoint, which takes an ID and currently returns JSON, and instead, can you return a detailed page of HTML, and can you include an image element with a fake image placeholder? Can you alter the HTML slightly so that it does not have a HTML or body tag, because the HTML that we are using is meant to be a partial, not the full page. Okay, that's looking good to me. Let's pop that over here. Okay, we've restarted the server. Let's just check this HTML is coming back okay rather than JSON. That looks good. And we've got a placeholder image. Let's try one. Fantastic. I think while we're at it, let's create a couple of fake images. Imagine a product, say product image of a baseball, and what we'll do, let that start off. We'll do another one while we're here, and we'll say product image of a baseball cap, and do another one, product image of a baseball mitt. So we've got a cap. We'll let them go, and what we'll do is we'll replace them in over time. But we come back to this code here. So I think I want to remove this. That shouldn't be in there. We now have our list container, we have our details container, and in theory this loop over the products will affect our list, and this will affect the detail. So let's do a refresh. Okay, now we have this problem that it only works when I click on it. I need to work on that in a moment, but let's call that XXX, refresh, and click on it. Okay, there's something we need to do. We'll load that on page start. Oh, look at that, that all worked.
Product 2 come up, that will come up as well.
So product 2, product 1, nice. While we're here, let's go and have a look at the images that got created, and that's not a mitt. They call it a glove, don't they? Baseball glove. Let's come back to here, and which one do you like?
I like the one right, top right.
Top number 2, we'll upscale it. What do you like?
Bottom right.
Bottom right?
Yep.
Okay, let's upscale that. Let's download that image. Let's download that image. And which one do you like? 1, 2, 3, or 4? I don't like any of them.
Yeah, no, I like top left.
Top left? We'll upscale that.
Yep.
So what we'll do is we'll jump on down to our... So I'm going to update this JSON. I'm going to let the software do it. We'll go with this one. Can I get you to alter this JSON document so that it has 3 products, comma, the first product is a baseball cap, the second product is a baseball, comma, the third product is a baseball glove. comma, can you give me a nice 20-word description for each product, please? And set an appropriate price. Cool. Let's take that. Can you update this JSON so that it has an image element? Okay, let's copy that. Let's take each of these and get rid of them. Baseball cap, baseball glove. Great. Let's come back to our images, save image. We will go over to Finder, download images. Okay, we have our 3 images here. Let's just create a folder called images, and we'll just drag them in, and let's rename them. I think we went with 1 word for each of those.
Yep,
cool.
Yep.
Let's just change these image URLs so that they say, we'll worry about the path in the JSON rather than in the HTML, keep things simple.
Yeah.
Go to our server, restart it, press refresh, click on this, looking good, and we do not have the placeholder, of course. I think what we can do, can you alter the HTML in the response so that it uses the new image tag in the product JSON file, comma, can you also create an endpoint to deliver the image based on the images folder? Let's see what that does. I don't think that worked at all. Product list, product detail. Okay, so what it's done is serving up the images using static here. Let's just go to the top, paste that in there. I think it gave it the wrong information. And let's not use GPT. It's probably easy enough to just go product.image. Sorry.
Can you tell it to use that?
I can teach it to use it, but it's not worth it for something that I can do myself much quicker. What I can do at the end is give it all my code and tell it this is the current state of the program. So that's a good question, but we don't need to do that. So we click here. Yep. So we click here, and we're looking okay, but it's not finding the image. Okay, I went offline for 2 minutes just to resolve the issue. I put the images folder into the public directory. It should have just been under the server. The other issue I had was that each of the images had an underscore. That's how they were being downloaded from Midjourney, and normal convention would be to use a dash. So I've put a dash in there, made sure that this is just referencing the images / file name. Let's do a refresh, click on here, get a product, and there's a baseball hat, a baseball. Let's get rid of that, etc. Let's go back to ChatGPT and say, actually, let's look at what our HTML looks like. Click that. I have the following HTML, and I would like to style the image using CSS. so that it looks like a Polaroid image. So I altered that a little bit to say, give CSS for a nicely framed picture in a blog post. We get this HTML, let's trial that. Let's create a style tag. Hit save. So it looks like we need a div. Class equals and a div. Let's run that. It looks good. We'll make it 50% of the page. What do we do? Let's just go with 50%. I'm not a CSS person, but that should work. In fact, that looks good. That looks good. That looks good. Wonder what would happen if we just go back to our HTML. Just reverse these around. Change that to say click for all products. And I think we can get rid of those now. They're not adding any value. Change that to say, I think we can get rid of that too. Refresh. Click for all products. Okay. Looks good to me. Let's bring this down. I'm not really a HTML person. I'm not a CSS person. I'm not even a JavaScript person. I'm just a software architect. But using an off-the-shelf library, I was able to get a product listing and product details working using just ChatGPT. If I can do it, anyone can do it.